Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Take Out the Grief of Stigma. It's a special week-long series of events, Zoom sessions revolving around grief. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about Alzheimer's and dealing with the unknown, the loss that is associated with it. We find that when people are caring for someone that has dementia or Alzheimer's, they really are losing the person before their eyes. They're there physically, but the person that they once knew and loved seems to be changing. And there is a bit of grief that goes with that. And so today we're just going to spend some time talking about that, and then also some ways to connect with your loved one if they have Alzheimer's or dementia. So normally this would be the time when I would welcome a guest speaker, but today you are just, you're going to have me. And I do want to just have a little caveat here. Um, I do have some experience with Alzheimer's on a personal level. However, it is not on a clinical level. So I just want to mention that. But we do have someone on the session who actually works for the Alzheimer's Association. So I feel very confident that we'll be able to cover everything. And for those of you that are joining, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. All right, we'll get started. So in doing a little research for this presentation, I found this phrase and I thought it was beautiful. The long goodbye. When someone in your family is initially diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it is just so devastating and so difficult. And as time goes on, there are so many changes associated with it. And there's different feelings and different emotions, and your life is forever changed with the feelings of loss and grief. And feelings come and go, and you'll feel them at different stages, sometimes at the same time. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the 5 stages of grief. And I love this picture because it truly shows how this happens. It's not linear. It can go in a circle, it can go in a spiral. But regardless, these are usually what people feel: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Because Alzheimer's really is taking away that person that you know and love. Denial. It's something that you hope, maybe they're not that sick, that they will get better, and you're going to convince yourself that they're really not going to change. And you just go back and forth with this, and with anger. It's easy to become frustrated. It truly is. I remember once in particular, my grandfather screaming at my grandmother because she buttered his toast on the wrong side. I didn't know that was even possible, but it was just something he experienced, and she experienced the anger. And for the person with dementia and Alzheimer's, they can feel that they're not respected. They might even feel abandoned. With the bargaining, oh, one moment, my screen just tapped. It's like floating. I hope nobody else sees that. I don't know if it's just mine or not. Raina, is your screen okay?
Yeah, I see it fine.
Okay, all right, then maybe it's just my connection. Okay, as long as everybody else sees it, I'm good. Okay. um, so bargaining or guilt, things that, your expectations. Oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I could be with them more. If only I did this. So there's a lot of feelings of that. Depression. This is something that I think many people experience, just that sadness. It can be the person might, really withdraw, cry, withhold their emotions. And eventually you're going to come to acceptance. And this is very, very hard to find meaning in caring for someone with this disease, accepting the personal growth that comes with surviving a loss, even finding your sense of humor. And again, it's not linear. It, it they go back and forth. And always remember, I tell people, feelings aren't right or wrong. They just are. So next we're going to turn to coping with grief and loss. It's so important that you acknowledge your feelings, no matter what it is. Sometimes we want to try to just push them down and push them down. But unfortunately, you can't really go around it. You need to work through that. And grief really is a journey. There are feelings that are going to come back again and again and again. And just be prepared for that. Let your grief be your grief. It's as unique as you are. Everybody experiences these things differently. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just what you are going through at the time. Talk with someone you trust. This is so important to share with others. This could be a friend, a family member, your pastor, a counselor, in a support group, but just that important knowing that you're not alone and that there is support for you out there. The fifth tip, if you will, is about staying in touch with the outside world. And this is very, very difficult to do. Um, but there are many organizations that are doing this virtually, where you can still connect with people and not feel that you are so isolated in helping your loved one. However you can, just try to get out there. It could be a walk, or maybe just spending some time with family members. And remember, self-care, it is critical. And it's always difficult, I think, particularly as a caregiver, to remember to take care of yourself because you want so much to give that to your loved one. But we all know we can't help others unless we help ourselves first. And there are little things that people can do. It could just be, your cup of coffee in the morning. Maybe it's a little bit cream and little chocolate shavings. I don't happen to do that too often, but sometimes it's the little things that really can make a difference. But just to find a little bit of balance, a little bit of joy, so that you're in a better place, so that you can help take care of your loved one. The next slide, actually several slides, we're going to talk about something that a colleague of mine just shared with me, and I think this is fantastic. Two of my children went actually partway through the Montessori way. The Montessori method, and this is for children, it was named after Maria Montessori, who was a pioneering educator who worked with children. And she really wanted to meet children where they were. And as not to overwhelm them, she would develop activities for them that they would enjoy. And at the same time, they would be learning. And this translates very well to people with Alzheimer's and dementia. It can just reduce agitation and other problem behaviors if you match something up with what it is that they enjoy. And I think this is a brilliant concept. Just that way to engage with them, to stimulate the mind and the body. So I have some different ideas here. So think about what your loved one enjoys. So there's some options here. So let's say your loved one who's experiencing Alzheimer's was a caregiver at home, perhaps stay-at-home mother for years. Well, think about the things that she would perhaps have done and enjoyed. It could be setting the table and folding napkins, matching socks. I know that never happens in our house, and thank goodness it's a lot of mismatched socks these days. That's all in. But even, to give them a doll, to hold, to care for, to give them that sense of purpose. Peeling potatoes, making cookies. These are just some of those simple things, but they can keep them occupied and engaged. Something that my mother has done that she's making. These, I'll hold it up. Hopefully you can see it. It's called a twiddle muff, and they're very popular in Europe. And I'm just starting to see them now. And my phone is going off. Pardon me. I thought I'd turn that off. Sorry about that. And the idea of the twiddle muff, for one thing, it can keep their hands warm. But more importantly, there are little things on here that can be sewn that you can fidget with or play with. And it's just something that they can hold at home while watching TV or, um, just passing the time. So I bring that up because it's something very simple that can be made. And we actually have a lot of our volunteers do that for patients. And then our nurses will take them out into the community. So I just wanted to share that as we talked about this particular slide. Now, let's say your loved one went to the office every day. Well, you know what? Think about what you could do to bring that to them now. It could be to have a briefcase with some things inside, paper, pen, some files. And if they're able to use a pair of scissors, perhaps a children's pair of scissors, have them do an activity where they can cut out some articles or photos and then maybe work with them to make a collage. But again, it's something that might bring back memories of what they had done when they were younger. On our next slide, the garage. This reminds me of my grandfather. He was a woodworker, and I remember my mom giving him a piece of wood and sandpaper, and he would sit there, and it was meticulous the way he would just hold a piece of wood and sand it, and he'd do that for hours. And it was just something that seemed to bring him joy and would give my grandmother, honestly, a little bit of time for herself. So something else that you can do, ask them to do a favor for you. Perhaps it's counting or sorting some items. You can give them buttons or screws, or something that they can take apart and pretend to repair. And of course, we always have the caveat there that we just want to make sure that if they tend to put things in their mouth, that you make sure that the items are not very small. And then finally, another here. Oh, actually, I have two more. I'm sorry. If they really enjoyed exercising or the great outdoors, there's some things that you can do. And if you have grandchildren around, it's something that they would probably love to do if they're young as well. Tossing bean bags, throwing or tossing a beach ball around. They have these, the giant ones that I see at a lot of senior centers. And it's just a great way to get people engaged. It could be sweeping or raking if they're stable and they're on their feet and have good balance. Perhaps if you're outside, maybe they can help put things in a wheelbarrow and move. So again, these are just some ideas that you might be able to do at your own home with your loved one. And then another idea here. If your loved one enjoyed playing games, bring some of them out. Again, an activity to do if you have grandchildren that are in your bubble as we are in this pandemic. So it could be some jigsaw puzzles. There's plenty out there that are on the easier level. Building blocks are another thing. You can bring out the dominoes, poker chips, match colors, match numbers, and easy card games. There's Old Maid, Go Fish, War. These are some that they might be able to utilize to pass the time. And again, just another idea to connect. I'm going to pause there, see if there are any questions that anyone has. Liz, is there anything that perhaps in your work that you might want to even share? You can feel free to turn a video on or even to put something in the chat. We'd love to get some ideas and have discussions.
Well, actually, Nicole, too,
Yes.
some of the ideas are new to even some of the things that we've recommended to our caregivers. I love your approach in using the Montessori way. Maybe being a former elementary ed teacher, it really is, I think, important. I think part of at least what I'm seeing with my mother and my stepfather is she's having difficulty keeping him engaged because he always just was a helper. He always wanted to help, always was doing something for her, the very manly man around the house. But he needs so much oversight and direction at this point. He's entering early, late stage, um,
Mhm.
that sometimes she gives up on keeping him engaged and might just sit him in front of the TV, which he really isn't engaged in, rather than keeping him active. So I'm always trying to think of other ideas. But I also, Nicole, I don't know what you held up. What was it called again?
Oh, a twiddle muff.
The twiddle muff. I
Yes.
have to get my hands on one of those because what my stepfather has been doing is starting to pull at his nails
Yes.
to the point where they're bleeding and she has to put Band-Aids on them. I'm like, Mom, we got to find something that he can fiddle with.
Yep.
Um,
These are wonderful. And I have some here that my mom's made. I'd be more than happy to send you one. My mom creates ones for men as well. So she'll put more of the manly man things on there, like bolts, so it's not as feminine, you know.
mhm.
And just to her personal touch, she always will put a butterfly and an angel on for everyone. It's just kind of her little mark, just to let the person or the family know that she's thinking of them and praying for them. So I can definitely
That's
send one to you.
wonderful.
You could
Thank
just
you so much.
privately, you could just put that in the private chat. I can send it to you at work or at your home. Be more than
Mhm.
happy to do that.
Thank
We
you.
love when our nurses, our CNAs can take them out. And I remember that my grandmother used to do the same thing. And she always had to have her nails done. And so I know that would have bothered her. And it was something we would give her, just things to hold in her hands, because it seems like they have to move their fingers.
Mhm.
And so, this works for children with ADHD, and my son has that. And so when he's doing homework, he'll hold this on him. And sometimes, he puts it all the way up the arm or over his head. Um, but it's something that is, it's colorful, it's soft, it can keep their hands warm because so often they're so cold as well.
Mhm.
So good. I'm glad that we could give you another idea there. One thing, and I forgot to put it on here, I did read as well. If the person, is near a window, perhaps you can put a bird feeder outside. I know since our neighbors put bird feeders outside, there's constantly birds and beautiful birds that we see outside. And, I think that's nice. Or if you have an aquarium, something that's not the television, but nature. So some other ideas there. Sometimes when you go into a senior center or nursing home, you see that. And I've read that there are a lot of thought is given to bringing life and nature into facilities and into patients' rooms, whether it be a plant to take care of or a fish to look at, but just so important to have that life in the room. And one other thing I'll just share, I think this is such a wonderful concept, and unfortunately, we can't do it during the pandemic, but to have, if you have like a senior center, to bring a children's art show into that senior center so they see the artwork. And then if there's an opportunity to bring everyone together, that young and old, so that the younger people can understand and respect the older people, and the older people have that wonderful, just the laughter of the children. So it's my hope that we can do that again very, very soon. Oh, Jen just had an idea. Put pumpkins in the yard to attract deer and birds. Lovely idea, Jen. I love that. Jen also shared that her grandmother was an RN at a local hospital. And when she was going through the illness, they would give her a list of names and have her schedule the nurses. I think that's just wonderful. Anything to keep them engaged from when they were younger.
Now, Nicole, I know one of the I think it's Laughlin Place, and I believe it's Jenna's Laughlin
Jenna's?
Park down here
Mm-hmm.
in Seaford.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis Healthcare, they, of course, because they're not getting any visitors during the pandemic, family can't come in. They organized for a fundraiser, but they organized an art show where the residents created their own artwork, whatever level of their art, and then they had local artists come in and, touch them up a bit, and then they put them on display, and they had like an auction for.
Wow.
So I thought that was a wonderful way to have the
I
residents
love
actually,
that.
yeah, an amazing program. So I thought it was just a wonderful way for the residents to actually be involved in a fundraising effort, but it's actually their handwork.
Definitely. There's actually one today I'm taking part in. Um, I can't think of the name of it, but it was cute. It was like a drive-through pies for Thanksgiving, and these pies were donated, and then the boxes that the pies are put in, the residents actually decorate it, and then we just drive through today to pick up our pie. It's just such a neat idea, and it keeps the residents engaged. And it's just nice to have something positive right now. And who
Right.
doesn't like pie this time of year?
I know. And I forget where that was. Was that Dover Place or?
Dover Place, I think, is doing it too.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
live in Newcastle, so there's one near me that's doing it. And yeah, looking forward to when I get to take a break this afternoon, running out and getting my Thanksgiving pie. Saves me some money and well, saves me some time, I should say, and giving money to such a great cause. But that
Sure.
art show is such a fabulous idea. I
Yeah, I
love
thought
that.
so myself. Yeah. And I'm sure the families appreciate knowing that their loved ones have created something.
Exactly. I always thought it would be brilliant to have a school, an elementary school or preschool, like with a senior center or with a facility, so that they could enjoy each other's company and almost have like a mentor or a pen pal or a buddy,
Mhm.
so that as the children, are playing, they can play with the patients or the residents that are there. I always thought that was neat. Oh, Jen just texted in Sunrise Senior Center. So that's the one. Thank you, Jen.
Okay.
I appreciate it. It's always great having staff that are on the call. Oh, now I swore I turned my phone off. My apologies. I'm on a roll today. All right. Before we end, because we are almost at time, I am actually going to just share a little bit about some of the other sessions that we have going on for Take Out the Stigma of Grief Week. Later on today, we're actually going to talk about helping children cope with the death of a grandparent. And then this afternoon, talk about what happens when a family pet passes away, because this can be just as traumatic, for people, old or young, when one of their companions passes away. And then at 4 o'clock today, we're going to be talking about surviving after a sudden loss, finding hope and healing afterward. Now, tomorrow, let's see if I can get the slide to, there we go, hit advance. We're going to talk a little bit about anticipatory grief, preparing for the death of a loved one, and then moving on to what I wish I knew before my loved one died. 10 ways to remember your loved ones, so some unique traditions that we can take part in. And then finally, another sort of grief that we don't often think about, but if you've been through a divorce, there is a grief journey that many people go on. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, wrapping things up on Thanksgiving, we'll have a blessing of sorts and talking about gratitude and just a reminder of the many positive, wonderful things that are going on in the world right now. In conjunction with the grief sessions that we're doing, we also have Take Out the Stigma of Grief as it relates to food and takeout deliveries. So the organizations and restaurants that are here are donating a portion of their proceeds to Delaware Hospice this week. The Mad Batter, I know, is making little cupcake kits that people can purchase to make at home with children. It's always a nice activity. Sherm's Catering is doing Thanksgiving meals. Frank's Liquors in North Wilmington, they have a lovely one where they're donating money for every wine advent calendar that is purchased. So there are a number of things this week if you're interested in taking the shortcut and not having to cook as much this week. And then I wanted to also just quickly mention the Festival of Trees. This is an annual event. It's a fundraiser for Delaware Hospice. And this year it is a little bit different. We still have many, many trees that have been sponsored, have been beautifully decorated, as well as wreaths. We did, Raina, who's actually on, she did a beautiful video this past weekend called Festival at Home. That's available on the website. People can go online to festivaloftreesde.org. They can vote for their trees. They can purchase one of 3 remembrance ornaments. And also you can do some holiday shopping at our Marketplace Etsy shop this year. So again, it does look a little bit different, but it is beautiful and fun all the same. And then in closing, just wanted to say that Delaware Hospice is here for you. We're a nonprofit community hospice organization, but we are so much more than just hospice. We provide palliative care. We also provide bereavement services. We have a Katybug palliative and hospice program, the only one in the state. And we have a transitions program, which is non-medical, but a way to support and connect people that may have a serious illness with the resources in the community. So if you have any questions or just need a little bit of direction, feel free to always give us a call. And Take Out the Stigma of Grief Week has been inspired by an organization in North Wilmington called WingMom. It's a fantastic organization. I love the tagline, building a village of moms, helping families and seniors. And they truly do that. They can help with anything and everything. If it is doing your laundry, picking up dry cleaning, tutoring a child during virtual learning, they do it all. And they even have some wing dads now who are helping out with some other things. You might need some help around the home. So they have been instrumental in helping out this week, as well as Sherm's Catering and Ignite Your Light, which is a wonderful organization that does a lot of leadership training and even some fun things like fire walking. And then finally, before we wrap up, I always like to give a special nod and a thank you to our corporate sponsors. As a nonprofit, we rely heavily on our community, our volunteers, and our corporate sponsors who make so many of our programs possible. And finally, just to wish everyone a very, very happy holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, just around the corner. And please, everyone, be safe, wash your hands and social distance. This is unprecedented times, but together we'll all get through it. Thank you, everyone, again for joining us today. And again, I hope you have a happy holiday.